Now, as you are aware, the CPI, Corruption Perception, you know, international, the survey that's been put out appears to put Ghana, give Ghana some marks for having done a bit better than previous year in the corruption index ranking. Ghana has been ranked the 7th best in the fight against corruption. The question I put here on the show really is, what do we make of this in light of the reality of events or acts like the bus branding saga? I'll start with Sam George. Immediately the survey was released, results was released, we had a statement from the Communications Ministry saying that, well, we could have done better, but obviously we ought to celebrate that we are doing, we are seen as doing better, at least, than we have done previously. There are those who say, well, this doesn't really amount to much, and that there are things on the ground that we know make this survey rather, irrelevant.
Okay, it's interesting that the last point you make, that this survey is irrelevant. It's irrelevant today because Ghana is making strides, because Ghana is ranked 7th in Africa. And if you look at the CPI performance of Ghana, and I just have the chart here,
right,
from 2001 to 2015, between 2001 and 2008, our best ever score was 39, which we had in 2002 and in 2008. But in 2015, we scored 47. That is 8 points higher. And that shows that the fight against corruption in itself is being...
So what you mean really is that for the whole period of the Kufuor administration, we never were able to get to 40?
Never.
And for
between 2009,
from
Mills' time, between 2009 and 2015, our worst performance has been 39.
39, which was the best of the Kufuor administration.
Exactly. And so this puts into perspective who is fighting corruption, both parties.
Right.
We've gone as far as hitting 48, which we hit in 2014, which is the best ever Ghana has had. Now, all of this must be situated within a certain context, a context where this is not a corruption index. It is a corruption perception index.
Right.
And perception is formed based on what most people hear, see, and are told. And so a sunlight campaign on corruption in itself could actually even hurt you in a perception index, because when you run a sunlight campaign on corruption, it then means that there's more discussion on corruption because you are showing a fight against that corruption. Now, in doing that, if people do not necessarily get that message driven home, it could look like a prevalence of corruption, given the contrast, which is where the state seems to shield acts of corruption and prevents the discussion and outing of same. However, even in light of this context, in which you have this government fighting corruption frontally, you have the National Service Secretariat issue.
The sunlight campaign you talk about, Dr. Mane Boama describes it as the paradox of exposure.
Exactly.
When you expose, the more you expose, the more we talk about corruption. And it gets negative.
And it looks like
perception.
There's a perception.
Okay.
Exactly. And so the whole idea here is the fact that irrespective of this paradox of exposure, you still have Ghana being a leading light. In fact, the telling point in this TI report is the fact that it doesn't just place us 7th in Africa, but Ghana and Senegal are singled out as shining examples of countries in Africa where the right things are being done, the right chords are being struck. Look, this National Service Secretariat thing, it didn't start under this NDC administration. It's been a decades-long canker at the National Service, under the National Service scheme. Subsequent governments have come. They really haven't done much about it, or they haven't had. In fact, if you listen to the reportage that came out, there were stories of people who had reported under previous administrations who had become victims of the system because they became victimized for speaking out against the acts of corruption. Under President John Dramani Mahama, when this whistleblower spoke about this, that whistleblower has not been the victimized, but rather we have fought that canker and we are saving the state in excess of 30 million Ghana cedis. Recently, at the last Newsfile show you did for 2015, that was held at Coconut Grove, I think Kojo Yankson, one of your staff here, put out the fact that we had saved around just about 14.5 million or less than that. And he was corrected there by the Minister for Communication that that is not correct. We had, in fact, recovered in our fight against corruption, we recovered more than that figure. Well, it looks like he didn't take the minister's word for it. And so he came and repeated that question again to the president a few weeks ago, about 3 Tuesdays ago. And the president made the point that we have recovered over 70 million Ghana cedis in our fight against corruption. People make references to the RLG saga and say you haven't, and Kojo Yankson makes that comment a lot, that you haven't taken on people like RLG. Let me state here and now that every monies RLG owed the government of Ghana have been recovered.
Every money?
Yes. Every money Asong Taba owed the government of Ghana has been recovered. The only subsidiary of that group that is still owing some monies, which government is still working to get, is Craft Pro. But RLG has paid its indebtedness. Asong Taba has cleared its indebtedness to government. And so this is a government that is not just speaking, but is walking its talk. Now, this is the Green Book. And if you take the Green Book, we have the transparency, one of the chapters, which is in line with our
Are you able
book.
to give us a bit of timelines when RLG finished paying its indebtedness? Because as far as we are aware, it did the first tranche payment. It was supposed to do about 3 tranches. And he made the first quarter payment, and he ended it there.
No, if he ended it there, I would have been telling you that they've cleared their indebtedness. There was a timeline for payment. That timeline has been stuck to. The payments have been made.
No, the timeline was not stuck to.
I'm letting you know that
over a year, and they had only done the first tranche.
Something. I'm saying to you that RLG and Asong Taba the state has gone after those 2 institutions and made sure that every dime that was owed the state from those 2 institutions have been recovered. One institution linked with that group of companies, Craft Pro, is yet to complete its payments. Okay. And that's the point I'm making here. Okay. And so I've not said that the entire group has finished all of its payments. But there are various subsidiaries. You're a lawyer. You know that each of the subsidiaries, their indebtedness is independent of the other. RLG as an agency has cleared its indebtedness to the government. The AG has successfully done that. Same with Asong Taba. But you see, it doesn't end there.
And in total, you say we have been able, like
in
the
excess
president
of 70
said,
million.
In excess of 70 million.
Yes,
well,
but you see,
somebody will ask in excess of 70 million. That is just how much more than the 50 million, 51 or 52 million that
that is why, and that is why I will urge anybody who is listening or watching us to take the Green Book and go to page 154 and go on 154, 155. And gives you examples. Take, for example, the sweater and socks versus the Attorney General. This, again, is a typical example of savings that have been done, where 28.9 million US dollars, that is in excess of 100 million Ghana cedis, the Attorney General went and fought against that judgment and saved the state that money. In Angmonte and versus the Attorney General, 99 million Ghana cedis, another 100 million Ghana cedis effectively. There again, the state avoided payment by the diligent work of the Attorney General. In China, Jinling International Economic and Technical Corporation versus the Attorney General. In fact, they were making a claim for 352,623,144 Ghana cedis and an additional 1 million US dollars. So you're looking at a total of about, say, 360 million Ghana cedis. In total, after the Attorney General went and made a solid defense, we are given a liability of 100,000 Ghana cedis. So in these 3 cases alone, I have showed you savings in excess of 500 million Ghana cedis. If you go to Polmot Holdings versus the Ministry of Youth and Sports, again, another claim for 27 million US dollars was made. That again is in excess of 100 million Ghana cedis. The state defended the payment.
How is this used in the corruption debate? How is this used in the corruption debate?
Beautiful. The Woyomi thing is the swan song for corruption in the opposition. It's simply because the state had not taken that fight to fight such judgments. And I'm showing you that this is a president who is with his attorney general fighting to ensure that we don't go and do settlements. We don't have consent judgments. But we fight for every judgment. We fight against every such judgment that has been given.
No, but you're not suggesting that consent judgments and settlements
I'm not saying they're wrong.
Yeah, because the Attorney General's department will do this every day
and every time. But
right.
I'm just pointing out to you that this is a government which is taking the most prudent measures. In 4 cases, I have shown you savings of 650 million Ghana cedis. If you want us to go on and on, I mean, there are more cases. Take, for example, the Dunkwa Goldfields versus government of Ghana. They sued us for $200 million. $200 million is 800 million Ghana cedis. In all, government of Ghana had to pay 4 million Ghana cedis. So if you look at these 5 cases I've put before you, 650 and about another 800 million Ghana cedis, we're looking at in excess of 1.4 billion Ghana cedis that the state would have had to owe and pay out as judgment debt, which this government has fought. So you see, when it comes to corruption, and like you rightly said, people may say, oh, but these cases you are talking about, how does this relate to corruption? If we had corruption endemic, if we had it institutionalized, maybe give it a fancy name, like the Office of Accountability or something, you would have had all of these things go through the system. People would have said, oh, let's find a way, let's not challenge this. People go and cut deals. You may decide to have a reduced figure, maybe half of it, and it's spread around everywhere. But this is 1.4 billion of Ghanaian taxpayers' money that the Attorney General...
But you recognize that this happens in all governments. They go fight these things in court and they get a reduced... I'm not aware...
No,
it happens.
I'm not aware of this quantum.
They are inordinate ones. They are inordinate ones where... They are inordinate ones where the acts of corruption becomes public by some way of exposure.
Sure.
But the Attorney General's department, I'm sure when you check, you'll find that these things happen. They are a normal routine of the department.
Not to the volumes or the quantums of monies that we're talking about. I'm talking almost 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. I mean, that's like the first tranche of the CDB. Okay, well, that's dollars.
Now
but you see, this is the Sunlight campaign that President Mahama is waging against corruption. And in the face of this paradox,
you take a breather after about over 10 minutes. Just take a breather now. Let's hear Egbert and what you have to say about
he has very little to say.
This index.
He's blown away by the work that
this index and what you make out of it. Why should we not be celebrating this?
You see, I am tempted to do something, but I will not do it. I'll stay on course. You see, it has been said that statistics, as it is, it reveals a lot. But what it doesn't reveal is even more than what it was. In fact, let me put it better. I'm saying that statistics is like a bikini. A bikini is supposed to reveal a lot, but what it does not reveal is even more than what it reveals. You see, my friend Sam George has reduced the fight against corruption by the NDC government to how many? 5, 6 cases.
I'm just giving you
a
snapshot.
Sam, my brother, I didn't make any whimper when you were speaking.
You had none to make.
No. He has reduced the fight against corruption by the Mahama administration to the number of judgment debts that they have succeeded in preventing. You see, when you are paranoid because you have used judgment debts to defraud the people of Ghana, you become so short-sighted and myopic that you reduce the fight against corruption to the number of judgments you have won. Why? Samson, sweater and socks versus the Attorney General. You go to court and you take judgment, you contest the case. What are governments supposed to do when you are sued? You are supposed to contest. So you contest. And then you prevent a judgment debt in sweater and socks versus the Attorney General.
But it's a fight against corruption. He's telling you that there's something collusion.
No.
In a way that this is
which collusion? Which collusion?
This is a fertile ground for the corruption enterprise.
Samson, give me an example of collusion in judgment debts. Is it Woyome? Is it Woyome? And who colluded?
Well,
and what has happened to the people? No. So
that one I leave it to Justice Doche and the Supreme Court.
When Sam George saunters into the studio and brings the Green Book accounting to the people, and in response to the government's commitment to the fight against corruption questions that you raised, he cites these 5 cases. Unfortunately for him, I think he's a law student.
Yes, he is.
Yes. Contesting a case in court, somebody has a claim against you. Things that you have breached. Look, some of them are for breach of contract. This one, number 6. Dunkwa Goldfields versus Government of Ghana. Dunkwa Goldfields instituted arbitration proceedings against the Government of Ghana, claiming damages for breach of contract in the sum of $200 million. Government successfully defended this case. The entire claim for damages was dismissed. What? So you are saying that Dunkwa Goldfields is corrupt?
That's not what I said.
No. You are citing cases you have won in court. Dunkwa Goldfields is a legitimate company working in Ghana. Did not come to break the votes of Bank of Ghana. Has some kind of arrangement with the Government of Ghana and says, hey, Government of Ghana, you have breached the contract. I'm dragging you to arbitration. You go and contest successfully, and you say that by reason of your contesting successfully and winning, you have prevented judgment debt. So you have fought corruption. Holy Moses. This is the levels to which we have reduced the fight against corruption to in this Republic of Ghana under President Mahama in the 4th Republic. So what about the cases that the government lost? Because during this same period, the government has also lost some cases. So those cases that the government lost, they are examples of corruption, not so.
But is it not fair to say that the example he's giving could be used effectively in some instances?
Samson.
Because, for example,
you don't reduce. You
remember the African automobile case?
Yes.
Where it took a judge,
Yes.
Justice Stokono, it
Yes.
took a judge to prevent a collusion. What
And
appeared to be a collusion between the Attorney General's department and the one who was claiming the money.
Justice Tokonu for what she did. One of our solid judges that nobody can.
Yeah, so he's saying that the AG could have done similar
but
things
you
if
see,
they wanted to.
Yeah, so if you want to mention specifics, mention those specifics. But even that case is South Africa automobile brought. You cannot say it is a corruption case. They had a They had a legitimate claim, and so they filed an action in court. As to how they were going to procure their judgment, yes, then you can allege corruption. So in these cases also, show me, unlike the African automobile case, this case that Sam George is touting as victory over in the fight against corruption. You should show me whether there was collusion in those cases. You understand? So don't come and use the Green Book and six cases, which you claim the government has won, or whatever, 7 or 8 cases, 10.
There are more.
Yeah, 10. Yes, I've seen them. I've seen 11. Yes, these cases. Yes, it's
You keep going.
on the list. It is 11. It is 11.
And
it
you
is
want
11.
to give it the full-
No.
value?
It is 11. How can you use legitimate claims of people in court or at arbitration, which you have won on merit, fighting both sides, to say that it means that you are contesting corruption? It is because you suffer from a fixation using the Woyome case as a dashboard and the CP case as a dashboard. That all those cases, impliedly, you admit that they were corrupt payments. And that now that you've decided to contest some of those cases and you are winning some of them, it means that you are fighting corruption. It is dangerous. This is the levels to which we have reduced the fight against corruption to in this country. But you see, Samson, let's face facts. Smarties. So you won. You haven't been to court yet.
No.
So you haven't won.
But we have made
the
fact that
Sam George,
an amount of money has to be refunded.
When you were,
Yes, allow him
me a question.
No, it's okay.
No.
Yeah, so
it
you
was
have
a
to avoid
rhetorical
that.
question.
Okay.
It was a
Okay,
rhetorical
thank you.
question.
Now
You were
we
not
know
supposed to
it's
answer.
rhetorical.
Yes. So I'm saying that you see, it is very dangerous. The situation in which this government, finds itself in, trying to, pull all kinds of things in the eyes of Ghanaians to show that because they are contesting cases that people have filed in court, they are winning the fight against corruption. It is ridiculous. In fact, it is preposterous. And it is dangerous. It is dangerous. And what Ghanaians want to see is a government that is not romanticizing corruption as the Mahama administration is doing. Every day, I have directed the minister not to pay this. I have asked that this should not be done, this should not be done. Please, we want to see a government that will not allow what has happened under the Smarties deal to happen. Look at SADA. Look at SADA. All those monies, some of them, are they being paid with interest? You use the National Service case as an example. If you know what is involved in that National Service case, you will not sit in this studio and tout it as one of the examples, because what is inside that case, if it turns out that it is put out, it may bring this government down. I'm telling you. Oh, I'm telling you. Sam George, I'm telling you. Don't go around preaching the National Service case.
Stop the
I'm not doing doom mongering. I'm telling you
like
the truth.
You say, Egbedo, there are people who are asking questions about the refunds that he's talking about. There are refunds that have been done without interest. So what is the big deal?
What is the big deal? What's the big deal? So Smarties, the AG's report that is out, was it not recommended that all those involved should be prosecuted?
Right.
Has anybody been prosecuted? And then you come here into this studio and look Ghanaians in the face and tell them that you are fighting corruption. It's a fabrication.
Document is a complete fabrication.
It's a fabrication.
Complete fabrication.
Complete fabrication.
Let's put it aside. Let's grant him that it's a fabrication. Let's grant him. But the circumstances and the facts surrounding the Smarties publication, shouldn't people be facing prosecution by now? If any government wants to show that it is committed to the fight against corruption. Look at school children who don't even have desks and tables and chairs to work on in class. We look these children in the eyes and the faces and allow corruption to fester to degrees of pain. And yet, we as a government, you look people in the face and tell them that they should return you to power.
So what are we saying? That we shouldn't celebrate what the Transparency International has credited us with as a country?
I don't need any cause from TI to celebrate anything. The ideal situation will be a situation where, when the list of least corrupt or highly corrupt nations are mentioned, Ghana's name will not be on that list. The day we attain that level, then all Ghanaians ought to celebrate. But to say that we were 39, 47, and what have you, so we are doing well, it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. You are going for the low-hanging fruit. Please, corruption is a canker that is festering, and this government has shown, look, 100% tolerance for corruption.
But the president has said we ought to use due process, and he wishes that, perhaps we're in a military regime so that he could do a few things. He uses the Woyomi case as an example. Now somebody is in court saying Woyomi shouldn't be made to pay the money because the Supreme Court
use due
didn't have a
process to fight corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Did the president use due process to bring the Gitmo to Ghana? He didn't.
You are questioning.
He didn't.
But he says he did.
He did.
We'll get to Gitmo too. We'll get
there.
What due process is he
Sam George, wait. I asked a rhetorical question. I don't expect you to answer. Please. Yes. For effect. But let me tell you something. When at the end of the term of President Mahama, when he's voted out, let me tell you, he'll be remembered as the president in the Fourth Republic, the only president in the Fourth Republic who did very little, if anything at all, to combat corruption. I'm telling you, it is a shame. It is a shame.
But again, you suggest that the refunds that are being asked for, the Attorney General or government is asking the people to refund the monies, and that is not sufficient.
Yes.
But under law, that is also a lawful means. For example, the report you are referring to, which Sam George discredits, that it is not the report of the Smarties deal. There's a reliance on the Government Contracts Protection Act that is what the Attorney General advised should be used to prosecute the people involved. And that law simply is that those who are found culpable will be paying 3 times the value of what is found to be stolen. And in default, they could get up to about 20 or 10 years in jail. Now, that same law provides in its section 3 that the Attorney General has the right to ask you to refund. It is only when you default in refunding that you suffer the penalties through court.
Yes.
But so asking for a refund without going to court is also a legitimate
but you see,
legal process.
If you want to send a clear signal to contractors who do business with government that don't overinflate or don't inflate contract values. A government that means business in the fight against corruption can ask you to refund and nevertheless prosecute you. Because, look, it is the case, and you know that when I go to Kabila's room and steal, as in appropriate something that does not belong to Kabila, and Kabila raises an alarm or reports to the police, and I'm hauled before the police, and let's say I took 10 million from Kabila's room, and I can say, oh, Kabila, I'm sorry, you know, me and you are friends, so this is your money. Are you aware that the return of that money can be used as evidence of my stealing, and so I will be arraigned before a court on charges of stealing? The fact that you have taken something unlawfully and returned it, and even paid interest on it, is an admission that you did it wrong. So you ought to prosecute. So I'm for the position that you can do all those things, but to send a clear signal that you mean business in the fight against corruption, prosecute. There are public servants involved. So when Smarties returns the monies, all those approving officers who did not look properly before they did that, they go scot-free.
Well, I think for many people, their concern is about asking for refunds without even interest, and it doesn't mean that it's not punitive. It looks like it's not punitive enough. So I can go steal government money, use it to make a lot more profits, knowing that when I'm caught, I'll only be asked to refund the principal amount. So what a cheap source of getting money to do whatever you want to do. Professor Kwekwa Asare says that, Stephen Kwekwa Asare says, let's not misinterpret our CPI score. According to Transparency International, the change in Ghana's perception index is, quote, attributed to the determination of activists to drive out the corrupt, unquote. In particular, it cites the works of Anas Armiyaw Anas to unravel corruption in Ghana's judiciary. The performance has nothing to do with transparency, cases being pursued, prosecuted, or won by government, etc. Talking about transparency, where is the AG's report on the rebranding of buses, and who is being prosecuted for the fraudulent payments? Thanks for your message there. I'll be reading a couple more shortly after we have heard Mr. Bonfe. Too many of us are used to referring to him simply as Kabila. So
he's a general without troops.
Yeah, I am under that temptation. But on this show, I try the best I can to keep things a bit official. Yeah. Also for our international audience, millions watch this show outside of this country as well. Now, what we are being told is that it is the opposition's desire that there should be nothing good about Ghana so they can make political capital, and you are in opposition. So you are not excited that this CPI appears to say we, Ghana and Senegal, we are some shining example, even though Professor Asare points out clearly to us, and when you read it, you'll find out that a lot of credit is being given to the civil society activists who have been at the forefront in exposing some of these things.
Samson, you see, our approach towards the fight against corruption is what keeps deepening the endemic, and what, in the words of His Excellency John Mahama, is synonymous to mass murder. You see, we reduce it to scoring political points, and in most cases, just for the purposes of regime change. And so we fail to tackle it at the root cause. I read somewhere the great Osajifo saying that, you know, the best antidote to corruption in society is to build a strong public opinion against it.
Right.
Now, that is where the sunlight analogy comes in. Expose it. Now, within that exposure is also to abhor and detest any show.
You think the government is failing in doing this?
I'm not, you see, I'm discussing a general society. It is not just the government of the day. And I will give you instances why it is not a new phenomenon. Now, when somebody goes to steal or engages in embezzlement at the office, of state officialdom, and he comes to engage in charity, does anybody ask where the money is coming from?
We hardly do.
We hardly do. We don't.
If we do at all.
In fact, we don't care. All I care about is that we've got the money. And so we keep doing it to ourselves, especially the political partisan class. Former President Kufuor was called names. The late Atta Mills called names. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is being called names today.
No, but people are saying that in this era, the regularity, the frequency with which these matters are coming up should actually be a clear signal of the fact that you have a lot more corruption in this government, and not just an issue of the paradox of exposure, that the government is rather exposing them.
No. I mean, which of them did government expose? The government, in fact, resists the exposure. It has taken, in some instances, civil society and individuals. Some of them that have been cited, the announced one, I have issues with some aspects of it. Because in reality, was he exposing corruption by seeking to go to bribe, the method that he used? Okay, that is another gray area that we all have to be very careful of. That I can seek to entrap you.
Okay, let's abandon that argument for now. Let's look at.
But you said that you stated that method or his work was clearly, cited by the CPI report, and I'm saying I have issues with that. So, in fact, the CPI report itself, I will have issues with it, and I'm entitled to those issues. Now, the issue has also been that we often reduce it to the political office holders, the politicians. Recently, we observed at the Public Accounts Committee hearing. And interestingly, an MP, one of the MPs made the observation. The people who have been cited in the reports as having engaged in acts of corruption or issues that have been flagged by the Auditor General for questioning by the PAC are civil servants and public servants. And as a society, and that's why I cited the examples of the political classes or the political party, figures. We call them names just to seek their dislodging. Having succeeded in dislodging them, we allow the status quo to remain. I remember very well, one of the issues that would have helped in dealing with issues of, some of these district level issues of corruption could have been solved by the election of district chief executives. There was a political party manifesto. 8 years, that party heeded not to it. This present administration said that they were going to do everything possible to decouple the AG's outfit from the Ministry of Justice. True or false? We are in their 7th year. In fact, we are in the 8th year. They don't care about it. It is none their business. So the very issues that will help us fight and curb the corruption, we allow them to stay, which means we only see corruption as an ailment, a menace, when we are in opposition. Actually, when we get in government, we profit from it, and so we say, so be it.
There's a certain
Going
irony.
forward-
There's a
going
certain
forward-
irony I need to share with you when it comes to these perception indexes when they come out. When the result is negative, you often find government or the party or the particular sector of society that is been indicted. You often hear them say they'll reject it on the basis that this is mere perception. But when it's a bit positive, we take it onto ourselves and we want to use it to score points.
We live a deception. Okay? We keep doing the same old things and we expect that, and like Egbert rightly pointed out, really, if the point about fighting corruption is that having been found culpable of engaging in an act of corruption, all we can do, the best we can do, is to say that return the money, and that ends it. Then who would ever be scared or be afraid of doing wrong? Except NEDA, where you cannot bring back to life the person whose life you have taken.
So you think the president is not living up to his word that corruption should be seen as mass murder and should be tackled in that direction? He's not doing that.
I agree with him that it is synonymous. But you see, the point is this. The Woyome matter. Now government is fighting it. Huh? The state is fighting the case. I'm saying...
No, it is Martin Amidu who actually fought the case.
Yes, but it is the state now that is supposed to recover.
Well, but you who are supposed to recover, when you act tardy for a single citizen to then go the full hog even to the Supreme Court and go on review before, payment is ordered and then you're doing that, should you not be applauding Martin Amidu?
Look,
well,
let me even leave.
Let's see how it turns out.
Let me leave the way matter and deal with
the new rate in court now makes the Attorney General, Martin Amidu and Woyome, it puts them in the same, sort of on the same scale. They are all defendants. So they are supposed to be acting together. But if you read Martin Amidu's defense, the way he thinks this is a collusion, everything, the president is involved and everything and all that.
You see, my point is this. And my good friend, Sam George wants us to pat the government at the back for some attempts made there. The JIDA money that were paid, that he's told us here, that RLG as a component has paid everything owed government.
With interest.
Hanging, yes, hanging.
When?
In fact, even if...
How much is this?
Even if the interest was 100%, please hold it.
Okay, go ahead.
The essence of RLG returning the money to government coffers was the fact that RLG was wrongly and dubiously paid.
No question.
The individual state actors who knowingly went ahead to make those payments, what have they suffered?
Nothing.
You see, let's make the case. So if that is the case, then it means that tomorrow, something you can go and form some company, and if I'm in some state office. No,
but for some of us, when we get caught, we'll suffer the full rigors of the law.
So
thank you.
I believe that there are three basic steps that as a people we all need to adopt.
Number one,
the build-up of the strong public opinion against corruption. And that includes abhorring dividends or fallouts from corrupt practices.
Number two,
identifying acts of corruption and actors. 3, punishing them to serve as a deterrent. That is the only way we can fight it. And I say that we need, in disagreement with Obama, that we don't need strong men. We need strong men and women like the Tokonus, who will be bold to say that, yes, it may not be a popular decision.
Justice Tokonu, not Tokonu.
Justice Tokonu.
Justice Gertrude Tokonu.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Who would say that, yes, it may be a difficult decision to make, but this is the path we want to chart to make a difference. Strong institutions are only built by strong men and women. They don't exist in a vacuum.
Interesting.
Can I just make some comments?
There are judges who want to keep the gates and even watch and do good for the country when these matters come up. So the Woyome case, for example, the initial stages is a very clear example where the judge says, don't pay, just pay one. Yes. And then in the end, we paid all the money to him at the blind side of the judge.
And that judge was attacked by it's very ridiculous. By who? Go and read the Daily Graphic comment, Abra epistle. The kinds of attacks that were rained on that particular judge when the evidence was very clear that the judge said, look, pay, yes, they've defaulted, but you know what? Pay a certain component, I think 17 point something.
Yes, the first tranche. It was supposed to be 3 tranches. Yeah.
Then government goes and pays the 51.2 million and comes back to the court and informed the court that it's a compromise judgment. In such a way, what do you expect a judge
He was actually not supposed to pay just the first tranche. Pay the first tranche, do an undertaking that you refund that money if he loses the case.
Yes.
And there's no record that the undertaking was giving. Now, yes.
You see,
one thing I want to ask is, how do you feel when it does look like the president demonstrates some efforts? We are told through the judgment debt reports, some companies that are supposed to suffer a blacklisting, the government has endorsed that position, and so on and so forth. The president says, I've instructed the Attorney General, prosecute all persons who are found wanting as far as the Auditor General's report are concerned. A few prosecutions are going on, one or two of them high profile, and yet there doesn't appear to be a commensurate commendation or, yes, from the public. How do you feel about that?
Something, you see, for me, I mean, government's business is to ensure that we protect the public purse. Okay, it is not necessarily the commendation per se. I mean, commendation could, you could even procure commendation in Ghana today.
No, the efforts are not being appreciated. But you say a lot is being done.
Exactly.
But the efforts are not being appreciated.
It's going to take platforms like this where we bring out the facts for people to appreciate the facts that, okay, RLG as a company in the JIDA scandal did owe. And you see, let's not even argue about this. Government has admitted that certain payments were made in error. And that is how come, and that is, obviously.
Wow.
And that is how come government...
The loans that were advanced to RLG, they were not supposed to be giving loans.
So there were errors.
Oh, you should understand the context in which I've used the word error. You're a lawyer. The point is...
the point is...
Okay, then you should have had a grammar lecture.
Coming from a law student.
What is trying to tell you is that if he had involved an ordinary person, it would have been theft. And they'll be prosecuted.
Samson, the discussion here is not about whether government admits or accepts the fact that payments were made wrongfully, if it doesn't want the word error.
Okay.
The bottom line here is this is one government that is able to admit and say that these payments were done in error. We would fight to retrieve them. I'm using such a platform to let you know that, look, RLG has paid its indebtedness with interest. Same with us, Asontaba, and other companies that we have gone after. However,
why is the public not informed?
So I'm expecting the Attorney General's department to maybe hold and meet the press
Why
session
didn't you put
and
that
put
in
it
the
out
Green Book?
And put it out. But then you see the bottom line here, Samson, is you're comparing. Well, and with all apologies to Kabila, but basically it's two major traditions that are being compared here, especially when you look at the Fourth Republic. Okay,
and you have a tradition.
And when you look at let's not deviate. Yeah. Okay, when you look at what we are doing and juxtapose it with what happened previously, I mean, Egbert makes the populist approach of their school children who don't have desks and tables, and we've paid that out. Were there no school children who didn't have desks and tables when we bought gold chains? Were there no school children who didn't have desks and tables when Egbert himself... I'm coming, Egbert. Yeah. When Egbert himself was beneficiary of cantonment land being sold at 8,000 Ghana cedis.
It is a falsity he's putting out. He's raised it on this program before.
I didn't want to mention your wife because your wife is not on the show.
I keep pointing it out to you. You see, it's a flawed issue. But you are entitled to go on a tangent.
Did your spouse not get
You've been told time without number that if you feel that something was wrong.
Go and report me.
No, the bottom line here is, did his spouse get a plot of land in cantonments at 8,000 Ghana cedis?
Well, you can always go and check. The records are there. The records are there.
I'm leaving it for the Ghanaian public to tell us if a plot of land goes for 8,000 Ghana at cantonments.
Well,
and if that doesn't constitute corruption in the mind of Ghanaians.
What you are putting out is a falsehood.
Or the
what he's putting out is a patent falsehood.
Okay.
It is patent.
Okay.
It is the same way that you went and attacked Ivor Green Street using ad hominem accessories. Now, after you were taught civility, you come to this program this morning and you say you are rooting for him to be candidate.
Okay, because he has forgiven you. Your wife to be
No.
Okay.
I will not even give you that privilege. If you think that my wife is a subject, if you think that my wife is a subject of discussion on this file, you can allow him to go on. What kind of cheap politics is that? There's corruption in government. Deal with it.
Okay.
Where the foreign affairs, where the foreign ministry sits today,
I'm not working now.
those lands were sold for pittances. Didn't we have school children living
Listen,
under?
ask him.
Oh.
Ask him. Tell him.
So
Professor Kofi Awono, Betty Modi Drisu, Nunu Mensah, there are a whole lot of people in the NDC government from the PNDC days who have bought government lands. 31st December. Have they not bought government lands? How many people bought
I want us
cars,
to move on
auction
this way,
cars, or government properties in this country?
I don't
before?
understand.
And so,
I don't understand the
when you have
context
a
for the
bigger,
purpose of the
bigger corruption
discussion
picture to
of the
deal with,
topic.
you
It
go.
is- it
I don't understand the context for the purpose of the.
It is because it's
Samson,
simply because
don't
I, as
degrade
an
Newsfile.
individual, I, as an
degrade
individual,
Newsfile by bringing
find
this.
it
Please.
as unconscionable for anybody to also, the same way we are saying, look, people can rationalize RLG taking this facility from Jeddah. They can rationalize it. The same way we are seeking to rationalize the sale of state lands and state assets to people. I decry it, be it 31st, be it in Sawam Canary or wherever. Anybody,
but you didn't mention them. But you didn't mention them.
Hold on.
Why are you getting worked up?
I'm not worked up.
All right, gentlemen.
It's all in the fight against corruption.
Gentlemen.
This is all the fight against corruption. Relax.
Just
I
some
wish I
30
could get
seconds. Just some 30
to buy land
seconds.
at cantonments.
You can.
Just some 30
You
seconds. Hold on, gentlemen. Yes, some 30 seconds. I want to read some messages.
Anytime I hear His Excellency the President on these issues or acts of corruption, I see the man in great difficulty. I mean, where he expresses the strong desire of wanting to deal with a challenge, but most of them inherited. And you have the political party structure and political party system, where you have got to defend everything that your party has done. So the ills of the Mills administration, albeit, I mean, accepting that they are not correct, but hey, you cannot go against the good old professor in their ways. And so you must find a way of massaging them. Okay. I want to say that we need to lift our eyes beyond the political party lenses in dealing with the issue of corruption.
Let me share a few of the messages that have come in from some of our listeners and viewers. Stephen Amuako says, Samson, corruption is deeply rooted in this government. The president does not have the moral rights to fight it because of the part he played in this aircraft saga. It's been denied, but because Martin Amidu spoke about it, it keeps recurring. His hands are tainted. What's more, he welcomed all corrupt officials in his administration to the seat of government. Okay, let's be specific with the comments we make, because this sweeping comment, I think it's not, they are not fair. I'll say that. Okay, now there is Ofori Jonathan. Okay, that's an interesting one. Egbert, I haven't heard your expression today, romanticization of corruption. Again, this one, Ahmed Faisal says, what is Samjo talking about when he says the Attorney General is fighting cases in court as fighting corruption? Is he saying the NDC used the judgment debt as a means of stealing our money? God have mercy on us. Then Ohiniba Apia Kubi says, none of the corruption exposés were initiated by the government, and even recommended sanctions pushed under the carpet. The seat of the presidency has been used as a sanctuary for corrupt officials. As far as corruption is concerned, the government has failed. Well, the National Service Secretariat issue, as you are hearing, was sort of, we can say, initiated by the president himself. That's what we are told. So that's an example of what you are looking for. And then, okay, the rest of you want us to talk about the disease a lot more. Bernard Togbo says, all the health-related departments in the country seem not to be reporting on it. That's the pneumococcal meningitis. Reporting on it on their websites. Information is hidden from the public. This breeds gossip and panic, and you don't want us to gossip and be panicky about it. Nana Yao Boedu says, what we should be asking about this Onzi Nkrumah guy is how he got his Ghanaian citizenship. Okay, if the CPP gave him a card as a member of the CPP should be telling us whether he's a citizen or not. That's my question to you. Then, okay, Jibril Bambego says, please let me divert a little. Please inform Sam George that the Deputy Propaganda Secretary of the NDC in the Savlugu constituency, Pag Ganiu, passed on yesterday as a young politician. Oh, sorry about that. What a way to announce it. I know he's a very good friend of yours.
Can I just say that yesterday I got the news of the passing of Pag, Abdullahi Ganiu, but we all call him Pag Ganiu. He's our Deputy Communications Officer for Savlugu constituency, and I just pray that may Allah grant him Jannah to Fidel.
Yeah, he contributed to this show too.
He's a fantastic gentleman.
Yeah.
And if you go onto his Facebook page, my picture is actually
he's been there for a long
picture
time.
is his profile picture. I mean,
right.
Fantastic young man. Got married recently.
Sorry about that news.
But then I think we should all learn a lesson from this, especially to my brothers in Tamale. When riding a motorbike, please wear a helmet.
Oh, he fell off.
Died as a result of a crash.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
That's terrible. That's terrible. Let's all be careful.
May
now,
he so rest in
Joseph
peace.
Apia Bedu says Ghanaians are fully aware that Kabila is not an appendage of Dr. Indum, so he will never say good about the man. Okay, so
speaking about Dr. Indum.
really, yes, I'm struggling to see what the message really has to.
Am I an appendage of anybody, any other person?
Okay.
I don't work in the shadows of other people.
Okay, thank you very much for your messages. We take a quick break. We'll return to ask the questions that some 4 senators are asking in the United States of America about the Gitmo 2. And of course, we have the labor tariff issues. We'll be right back.